Brother Prepared Adventist. We met when you were always late for chats and laughing at your name, Prepared. Um, your position on positions you have heard on Paul's comments regarding the censors. Let's go back. Censer, altar of incense. It had a censer on top of a stand. It wasn't like the outside altar of the brass altar for the burnt offerings with the brass grate underneath for collecting the. It wasn't the in Numbers the Korah's rebellion. They had 250 of the princes, the top guys, Levites, the head guys. This is after the bad witness report and of Kadesh Barnea. This is 2 years after the Ten Commandments were shouted down. The the position we have, if you were to try to make a copy of the tabernacle from Exodus description, it would be pretty tough. Thank goodness a lot of people have attempted, and you can get a pretty good idea such that you walk in, the the entrance was on the east side, so you would have to turn your back on the rising sun to enter the temple. You looked off to the right, and was the table of shewbread, unleavened bread, and frankincense was put on it for preservation, and the priest would eat it. That's why the three wise men brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh, just the three most expensive things to build the tabernacle of God. They knew the Son of God. They needed. You're gonna need gold for all the gold. Okay, the brass, laver out in front, the brass altar out in front. Yeah, you can dig it, make it. Actually, you can't dig it out of the ground. You got to make it. But no, gold and silver. Myrrh is a powdered sap. You think you can just go dig it out of the ground and make it real quick? No, this takes time. So it's sometimes more expensive than gold. Myrrh is sometimes more expensive. Frankincense, everybody's like, oh, I don't even know what that is. Okay, well, that is within the holy place on the bread. We all know about the bread. Everybody forgets. So the bread is on. You enter from the bread. The table of showbread is off to the right. And quite frankly, if you look at the dimensions, the table's kind of short, like for kids. The temple in heaven. Well, okay, anyway. Off to the left is the seven-branched candle, the menorah. The walls are slats, I think a cubit wide and 24, the curtain's 24 cubits, 28 cubits high. So these slats are, I guess, that high too. But then, or maybe there's 24 of them across, but on each side. So you have the lit up menorah on your left against a highly polished gold wall, which is going to do nothing but reflect you and that light, against another wall, highly polished gold wall. These slats, you put these slats side by side. There's not wood in between. Okay, these slats are side by side. They're in silver sockets in the ground. This is like a giant radio antenna. But it's like you're in a barber shop with the mirror on one wall, the mirror on the other wall, and you're in there looking at that mirror, looking at yourself for infinity. It's back and forth to the light. But it dead ends because only the high priest once a year can go beyond the curtain, which is it's huge. It's got cherubims on it, finely woven from what's his name, who was told to make it. regardless, it's a dead end, but at that dead end is the altar of incense. And it's essentially just a stand that does not have, you'll see a lot of depictions of it where it's a box, but it's an open box. It has the four, it's an open box. It has the four legs, but because we know that it was built like the altar out in front, and that didn't have broad plates around it until after Korah's rebellion, right? So they were used as broad plates around that. So our position on, and I only wanted to make this video for you because it is the book of Hebrews, but it's the one book that people debate whether or not who wrote it. So we think Paul wrote it because you would have to have such an intense knowledge, intense. It's a tent. You have to be in the tent, the tabernacle. You would have to have such an intense knowledge of the tabernacle and its proceedings to understand that there would be that on the altar that Aaron would Saint. Oh my God! There's my old ex-Catholicism showing. Solomon's temple that David designed, Solomon built. I'm giving hand gestures, okay. The had 10 menorahs. Okay, it was huge. The laver out in front was like 4,000 bathtub fulls. It was held up by 12 giant bulls, and the priest would have to wash. The priest, 12 giant bulls, and the priest would have, I'm giving you hand motions, and I'm not, and the priest would have to wash. But so if we've ever seen the Arch of Titus relief, you'll see them carrying fire pans. It's a pole, and it's got a flat shovel on the end, and that's what you put coals from that and that's what you put coals from that incense on the fire pan, and then you shove the fire pan, you shove the fire pan under the curtain, so to speak, so that the smoke would blow before Moses, before the high priest once a year, long after Moses, long after Moses. They didn't even do this stuff until after they conquered. They didn't do Passover. They didn't do any of the stuff till long after they were to have gotten into the land of Israel, conquered the people, and rested. Then God would declare a place for His name to be. We know it to be Jerusalem, and you would build your. So even though it's in the holy. It's directly, even though it's in the holy, it's directly a part of the holiest of holies. And because it represents the prayers of the people going to the Father. The top of it was supposed to be horned. Okay, that's shofars. Like the incense is here, and the shofars are four shofars are on the corner of it, and they're all pointing up. So because the priest, when he came in, often would do, well, maybe it was only once a year for this too, but on that he would sprinkle blood seven times around. With his finger he would wipe it on the horns. Scripture says he would take his finger, and that's why the priests had to get their right ear, their right thumb, and the right whatever big toe, so that they know what the right is. Because when the high priest went in there once a year to the holiest of holies, he had to go on the right hand side of the mercy seat, and we want to know our right from our left. Nineveh did not know their right from their left. But the blood that goes on the horns of the altar of incense, you would wipe on the horns. So you dip it. If there were shofars, you could wipe it on the inside of that shofar, and your finger would be pretty clean. If it's horns, as most people depict it as like just in a, I don't even know why, but they just put like these triangles on the top of the corners. If the priest wipes it on that, it's the shofar, and then the shofar. It's like through time that blood's going to drain down to the altar of incense, and that represents the prayers going up. But to make a long story short, we believe this is a very good indication that Paul is the author of Hebrews because of the intense, immense knowledge you would need to even say that there is a censer on the altar of incense. From the description that you read, it could very easily be the table itself could be like the altar out front, where the animal burns right on the altar. The incense could burn right on the altar. There would be no need for a separate incense holder, except we see that with the rebellion of Korah, where the broad plates were put on the outside of the. So this inside altar may have had just a hollow inside with the four legs, the correct dimensions, just a stand to hold a tabletop to hold the incense that the priest would use. Rather than seeing it as a proof that Paul was wrong or some other reason. But yeah, that's our position, and it's a little bit different than what you stated when I was listening to Jamie's video. I think y'all did a really good job tonight. Blessings to you, brother.